Hey guys, tonight we find ourselves wandering through a cobbled alley, misty and quiet, the air thick with the earthy scent of damp straw and soil. The distant sounds of horse stables drift towards us, blending with the whisper of the wind. We're stepping back in time to explore the fascinating world of medieval toilets. Quite the unexpected topic, I know, but picture yourself navigating these ancient streets. Toilets varied widely from the humble chamber pot, casually emptied into the street, to the sophisticated garderobes found in castles. As you learn what it was really like, you'll probably think two things. That's quite ingenious. And I probably wouldn't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also feel free to post your location and local time in the comments. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. As you walk down this ancient path, the stones beneath your feet are slick from the recent rain. The mist clings to your skin, cool and refreshing. Imagine the hustle and bustle of medieval life around you. Carts rumble over the cobbles, their wooden wheels groaning under the weight of barrels and sacks. Merchants shout their wares, and the occasional goat trots by, indifferent to the organized chaos. The reality of medieval sanitation might surprise you, as it wasn't all as advanced as the castle garderobes. Instead, the common folk made do with chamber pots, simple but effective. These portable toilets were kept under beds or in a corner, providing easy access for the nightly call of nature. Each morning, they would be emptied, usually into the streets or a designated pit known as a cesspit. The smell, as you might imagine, left quite an impression. For those of higher status, the garderobe offered something of a luxury. Typically built into castle walls, these small rooms jutted out over castle moats or other bodies of water. An unusual design indeed, but clever in using gravity and water to whisk waste away, a medieval flush toilet of sorts. Historians still debate whether the garderobe evolved primarily from practical needs or simply as a status symbol. Regardless, it provided some privacy and was less smelly than the chamber pots. A small yet significant improvement in the quality of life. You continue your stroll through the damp alley, noticing little details like the uneven stones and the moss growing in crevices where sunlight rarely reaches. It's a place that feels both ancient and alive. Just ahead, a gentle turn leads you into a scene where clothes are hung across the street, dangling from lines strung between buildings. Here the walls echo softly with the chatter of day-to-day life. Unexpectedly, you're reminded of the night's chill by a sudden breeze carrying the scent of a nearby bakery, its warmth inviting and tempting. Perhaps it is comforting to think about such a place in this medieval setting, a reminder that despite the challenges of the time, sparks of warmth and comfort were cherished dearly. As you wander, you can't help but wonder about the myriad of other daily challenges medieval people faced. Consider, for instance, the role of the Gong farmer, tasked with the unenviable duty of removing waste from cesspits. These night workers took to the job with a fortitude few could muster. Their work was thankless but essential, ensuring that the towns remained as hygienic as possible. There's an odd charm in the ingenuity required to overcome such hurdles in a world without modern conveniences. Surviving in these times compelled a kind of resourcefulness and community reliance that we might admire. Across Europe, designs varied widely. In some places, people used moss or hay instead of our familiar toilet paper, and in France, straw held prominence. Creativity thrived even in the most understated aspects of life. The comfort of a warm drink would be splendid right about now, you muse, passing by the shadowy outline of an inn. You can imagine the lively tavern scene inside the crackling fire ale, poured generously into wooden mugs, and the rich smell of meat roasting over the flames. Unfortunately, no amount of coziness could fully mask the less glamorous scent drifting in from outside. But it was a familiar scent to all and largely accepted. Reflecting on these images, you understand a bit more about how medieval society functioned. People lived closely among each other, with their community forming the heart of everyday life. It was an era full of contrasts, enterprise and hardship, ingenuity and squalor, yet it thrived and carried on building the foundations of the world we know today. Continuing your walk, the alley narrows and widens in inconsiderate turns, like the twists and turns of time itself. The connection with the past becomes clearer as you trace each step over the cobbles, smoothed by 1,000 footsteps before yours. You understand that history isn't merely made of grand battles and legendary tales, but embodied in the simple and commonplace aspects of life, like toilets often overlooked, and yet telling the richest stories about those who came before us. Soothing the sounds of the night, you pause, savoring the moment. The link between then and now feels palpable, as if by quietly observing, you're respecting the legacy left behind. Now it's your time to return to the present, carrying these tales of medieval life back with you. A reminder of the shared human experience. As you find yourself amidst the dimly lit narrow lanes of 14th century London, your senses slowly awaken to the rhythmic rumble of squeaky wooden wheels. You become aware of their steady progression down the cobblestone street, their protest echoing through the nocturnal air. The night is dense, cloaked in a deep indigo that just barely outlines the shapes of houses and murky alleyways. You feel the chill in the air, a gentle reminder of the ever-looming presence of history sighing through the city's stones. Here in this shadowy era, the essential tasks of life unfold. The Gong farmer passes you by, pushing his heavy cart towards the city's outskirts. The cart is filled with barrels, each one sloshing with the night's collection of night soil, a quaint term that belies its rather unromantic nature. The unsung hero of sanitation, the Gong farmer's profession, is viewed with a certain disdain by many, yet you'd quickly discover just how vital his work truly is. The very existence of this often avoided task underscores a society learning to manage its own waste long before modern plumbing dreamt itself into being. As the night carries on, the cart rolls past the sound of chains clinking together, just as effective at breaking the night's silence as the cart's wheels. Each link in the chain seems to hold a story of its own, like the whispers of myriad forgotten voices. You listen intently, almost feeling the weight of time in every sound. The occasional splash from the barrels seems to punctuate the night with a reality check that perhaps in another time, or with less endurance, you might not survive such an ordeal. Historians continue to debate how exactly such a job was perceived in its time. Despite being indispensable, the Gong farmers were often ostracized, compelled by necessity, rather than choice to labor during the veil of night. Some suggest they were paid handsomely compared to other laborers, yet with such a high price, social acceptance never came easily. Indeed, societal views were that of ambivalence torn between necessity and prejudice. As you wander down this quiet lane, the low murmur of voices reaches your ears. A quiet debate ensues between two older townsfolk, leaning against the edge of an old tavern. They discuss how, despite it all, no great city could rise without these night laborers. One claims with a touch of sarcasm, and perhaps too much ale. Imagine the smell if old London Bridge were clogged, eh? Their conversation, although tinged with humor, unveils the truth that often goes unspoken. The city relies on this unseen nightly exodus to thrive. It's a curious thought as you amble alongside these moonlit glimpses into the past. The roles unnoticed by the glistening sunlight take center stage beneath the star-dotted sky. As the cart trundles further into the distance, its sounds becoming faint ripples in the sea of night, you can't help but marvel at this snippet of history. On your journey through this softly glowing past, every step feels wrapped in the gentle embrace of time, underscoring just how many efforts go unseen and unappreciated in the delicate tapestry of human progress. In this soft moment, as the hustle fades into the comforting rustle of leaves and the distant chirp of night creatures, you let the subtle continuum of history lull you ever so gently. The Gong farmer's cart, just like the world, keeps moving onward and outward each night, indistinguishable from the last, yet stunningly unique in its silent, persevering journey. Inside the peasant's cottage, the air is still and quiet, save for the soft rustling of straw underfoot and the distant muted crowing of roosters heralding the coming dawn. The evening's chill has settled in, wrapping everything in a cloak of shadows and whispers. The room is modest, the furnishing simple. A rough wooden table, two sturdy chairs, a linen-draped bed, with a mattress stuffed full of straw. You step quietly across the creaky floorboards, feeling the cool night air seep through the thin walls. Your eyes scan the dim outlines of the room. There's a ceramic pot hidden under the mattress, which is surprisingly easy to lift. Your fingers close around its cool, rounded surface as you gently pull it free. A touch of curiosity tingles up your spine. You can't quite resist the allure of uncovering what lies within. Lifting the lid, there's a soft clink, the sound of coins, perhaps dull in the hushed quiet of the room. It's an intriguing mystery. These small treasures wrapped in earthenware speak of a secret cache tucked away within the confines of a humble home. Such pots were often used to keep whatever little valuables the peasants possessed, safely stowed against life's uncertainties. Even in this rustic dwelling, the little pot seems like a parchment of stories waiting to be read. Outside, the landscape waits under a blanket of stars. Mice squeak occasionally in the thatch above, adding to this symphony of night sounds that cocoon you in the present. The world feels paused, balanced on the edge of night's deep breath. You stand with the pot in your hands, drawing in the chill midnight air, laden with scents of earth and hay. As the chamber pots are emptied into ditches each morning, you think of the flow of daily life here, a steady, unchanging current that carries on with or without grand events. These ditches, functional and necessary, crisscross the village, where life unfolds in numerous small acts of sustenance and survival. The rhythm of this rural existence is unbroken by time. Historians still debate whether such pots represent just practical storage or the innate human need to hide away dreams and fears alongside cherished possessions. Whatever the case, each pot like the one you hold carries an unspoken testament to the quiet lives of those who lived in this place. Perhaps it contains remembrances, echoes of laughter, or traces of whispered hopes, sheltered beneath layers of straw. Every corner of the cottage seems to hold its own story, a patchwork of lives interwoven through generations. The faded, fire-warmed wooden beams above testify to many such evenings stretching back into times when history was spoken as much as lived. Occasionally, an unusual detail leaps out. A flower pressed between pages, a worn trencher left polished by countless hands. Understanding this world, you realize, requires more than seeing. It means listening. Listening to the unspoken dialogues told by walls and earth, each piece a part of the whole. As you replace the ceramic vessel, you feel a gentle acknowledgement, perhaps a nod from the past. These are the elements of a night where reality gently dances on the edge of dreams, where each sound, each breath draws you nearer to a deeper rest. The rooster's crow reaches again with a clearer insistence. Dawn inches closer, lightly brushing the horizon with the silver of new day promise. In this passing moment suspended between waking and sleep, you see the cottage not just as a dwelling, but a capsule of time touched by many nights like this one. Reflecting on this moment, with soft fading tones of the roosters and the ambient night drawing away, you inch toward a deeper understanding. It envelops you like the softest of quilts, lulling you back to the peaceful embrace of slumber, where dreams tangle playfully with quiet introspection. And as the story eases into a lull, night folds its wings around you, whispering secrets as gentle as the breeze long past midnight. Its gift is a restful sleep where histories weave through the tapestry of your dreams, inviting you to wander through the chronicles of quiet lives, nestled in with the cushioned pull of rest. Your footsteps echo softly as you ascend the narrow stone staircase, spiraling upward, each step a relic of times long past. Your hand grazes the cool wall beside you, feeling the roughness of centuries-old stones. The air is cooler here, carrying with it a faint smell of damp earth. And something else. An aged scent, almost like a forgotten history waiting to unfold. As you reach the top of the staircase, a heavy wooden door stands before you, its surface worn yet sturdy. You push against it, feeling the resistance give way, and it creaks open to reveal a garderobe, a quaint term for a medieval privy, albeit one that holds its own peculiar charm. The garderobe juts out daringly over a moat, an architectural quirk designed with both utility and defense in mind. You can't help but admire the ingenuity of placing such a necessary room in a way that protects the castle from would-be intruders below. As you step inside, the wind whistles through the cracks in the stone, a ghostly melody that fills the small space. It's a lonely yet strangely comforting sound, like the castle itself is breathing along with you. The stone seat of the garderobe might be simple, but it's functional. You settle onto it aware of the cool, damp stones pressing against your skin, a reminder of how life once was practical above all else. As you sit there, you learn an interesting tidbit. Nobles of the time would hang their clothes inside these very chambers, trusting the ammonia fumes from the waste below to kill the fleas lurking in their garments. A curious belief indeed, and whether it was entirely effective, historians still debate. The space, although small, is imbued with whispers of the past, and as you listen to the sibilant wind, you imagine the stories these walls could tell. Perhaps of the lords and ladies who strategically plotted over meals, or of the guards who stood valiantly watching from turrets above. There's a peculiar peace to be found in this solitude, where the past feels close enough to touch. The simplicity of the garderobe contrasts starkly with the grandeur that often surrounds these imposing structures, yet it holds its own kind of dignity, an essential part of the lifeblood of medieval life. You reflect on the symbiosis between structure and purpose in a castle, each part serving both a functional and defensive role. This tiny projection over the moat wasn't just for convenience, it was a silent sentry, ever vigilant against the incursions of time and tide. The wind's chill bite prompts you to pull your cloak tighter, its folds wrapping around you like a warm embrace. As you prepare to leave this humble space, you take a moment to appreciate it, an oft overlooked corner of history that speaks of everyday lives amidst the backdrop of grander tales. Sliding off the stone seat, your footsteps lead you back towards the narrow staircase. As you descend, the whispering wind fades, replaced by the solid, reassuring presence of the ancient stones that guide you back down. The keeper of secrets, this castle holds many stories, yet unexplored, and as you leave the garderobe, you can't help but feel you've just brushed the surface of its layered history. Cloistered calm envelops you as you find yourself standing amid the serene silence of an ancient monastery. Here the air is cool and fragrant, with the faint waft of sage and rosemary lingering gently upon the breeze. Just ahead of you, lined up along a sturdy bench that spans a narrow babbling stream, are monks. They stand serene and compose their quietude, only broken by the soft whisper of the water rushing beneath them, each ripple catching the light from flickering candles placed delicately along the stream's edge. You notice the faint rhythmic chants that echo through the stone arches overhead, their sound weaving through the cool air like an ethereal tapestry. The monks' voices rise and fall in harmony, each note a piece of an ancient melody that has resonated within these walls for centuries. It's humbling to think that this practiced chorus, unchanged by time, has filled these halls long before the world you know took shape. As you stand there, you're reminded of how medieval monks dedicated their lives to preserving knowledge, transcribing texts that would otherwise have been lost to time. The irony isn't lost on you. The very same history you scroll past without a thought was meticulously crafted by those who stood in silence day after day beneath these very arches. You might even whisper to yourself a cheeky remark about your own attention span in the digital age. A mural painted across the walls catches your attention, depicting the history of the monastery. It shows scenes of daily life monks in solemn prayer, others diligently writing, and a few tending to gardens, like the one where you now stand, herbs hanging in fragrant bundles along the way. It's a simple life, yet pivotal in shaping the course of history. After all, without their rigorous discipline, countless documents and manuscripts crucial for our understanding of the past could have easily disappeared. Historians still debate whether these enclaves truly appreciated the weight of their task, or if it was simply routine devotion. As you move closer to the bench where the monks are lined, the soothing sound of the stream seems to amplify the melody of their chanting, merging into a seamless symphony that wraps around you. The flickering candlelight casts dancing shadows, once in a while surprising you with a playful flicker that hints at secrets of times gone by. You pause by the herbal bundle's familiar smells, now redefined by the night's air. The sage is earthy and grounding, while the rosemary brings a sharp, clear note to the composition. It strikes you as unusual, but perfectly fitting a monastery that uses nature's gifts to create an atmosphere both divine and earthly, just like the harmonious balance the monks strive for in their spiritual lives. Somewhere in this reflective silence, you find a comforting peace. Perhaps it's the rhythm of the chants, so steady and eternal. Or maybe it's the simple yet powerful reminder of the monk's dedication. Here is where the tangible touch of human history meets the ethereal whispers of time. And although you're merely a visitor from a far more hectic world, there is a strange sense of belonging, as if you too are part of this unbroken, time-honored tradition. Standing by the stream, with the candlelight glinting in your eyes, you find yourself soaking in the centuries-old tranquility. It's a moment frozen in time, inviting you to partake in its storied past. The mind wanders to what it would have been like, living in this cloister, joining the monks in their daily rituals, their shared meals and meditations, their silent strolls in the moonlit gardens. And while historians still puzzle over the exact age of these stone walls, and whether the legends woven into them hold real truth or are more embellished tales of yore, one fact remains uncontested. The quietude of a monk's life is an art in itself. A life that allowed these men to savor the beauty and simplicity and preserve for us a world where the soul's whispers could be heard over the clamor of the world outside. The ambiance around you subtly shifts, as if responding to the solace within your own heart. It's a gentle reminder that in a world full of noise, there exists sanctuaries of silence where time slows, offering you the space to just be. And so enveloped in this cloistered calm, where the echoes of chance become the gentle lull of a lullaby, you find your place. Here on this tranquil bench above the rushing stream, beneath the watchful eyes of candles and stars alike, you let the world melt away, embraced by the echoes of history and the tranquil presence of centuries past. Here in the cool comfort of night, the candle's light softens, and so do your thoughts, leading you gently into the sanctuary of sleep. Morning unfolds with a gentle chill, as a light fog hovers above the Thames, shrouding your view of the distant cityscape. You find yourself stepping into a small weathered wooden stall, precariously perched on the riverbank. The wood creaks slightly underfoot, evidence of the stall's lifetime of service against the elements. Below, the rushing water murmurs softly, almost a whisper, trying to tell you its ancient secrets, while pigeons, eager guardians of this space, flutter in whirring circles above, occasionally swooping low with curiosity. As you stand there, the market begins to rouse around you. The noise is a gentle cacophony, a blend of vendors setting up their stalls, the clatter of wheels on cobblestone, and the distant hum of conversations in a language that you half know, half imagine. It's a bustling tableau, yet one might find an odd comfort in its organized chaos. In this early morning, energy history lives echoing with stories from centuries past, forcefully reminding you of London's timeless spirit. You think back to previous ages, when laws stood as invisible walls, demanding fees from those who needed to set up in these spots by the river. An elaborate system designed no doubt to regulate the chaos, or perhaps to consolidate power in the city. Yet necessity is always inventive, just as sure as human nature finds paths less traveled. So too did the poorer traders and anglers of old devise their own methods to circumvent these barriers. Whether it was a wink from a friendly watchman, or the opportune moment seized when the city's eyes were elsewhere, they managed threading their livelihoods through the weaving tapestry of the law. Historians still debate whether this workaround system was simply a quiet rebellion, or if it played a more significant role in maintaining the lifeblood of the city's commerce. Was it simply a matter of survival, or did it signal a tacit agreement between the classes, a shared understanding that sometimes tradition must bend to necessity? It's a comforting mystery to ponder as you watch the swans glide effortlessly on the water's surface, a reminder of silent resilience. The air is fragrant, tomorrow's rain mingling with today's spice. Garlands of herbs and arrangements of colorful fabrics line the stalls, each a story unto itself. Perhaps you notice a peddler, deftly weaving through the crowd, seemingly oblivious to the chaos. He hawks his wares with a voice that rises above the throng, a lyrical flair added to his lines, speaking of a time when the cries of street vendors were captured in rhymes and remembered long after the markets had packed up for the day. You're drawn to one particular stall displaying a bewildering array of pocket watches, each ticking softly in unison with time's immutable cadence. These timepieces tell their own stories, their designs intricate and reflective of changing fashions and technologies. You pick one up and it feels cool in your palm, heavier than you expect. Its face a delicate interplay of ornate hands, frozen under clear glass, could tell not just the time, but tales of the people who once owned it. Was it once the prized possession of a merchant, racing against time with deals to broker, or perhaps nestled in the waistcoat of a nobleman, enjoying the riverside air? And within this timeless arrangement of historical echoes comes the unexpected. A peculiar scene unfolds as a flock of pigeons unexpectedly scatter. The source of their sudden flight is an old man seemingly out of place in his attire, capturing illustrations of the market and its enraptured artists in the bittersweet grip of nostalgia. He sketches quickly, capturing details with expert flicks of his wrist. The gentle grumble of his commentary, perhaps an inside joke only he can understand, offers a soft chuckle lost to the surrounding chatter. All the while the market ebbs and flows like the river beneath a constant pulse linking past to present. You find your thoughts trailing back to the river, an ever-present companion through London's trials and triumphs. The Thames holds the city's history in its currents, patiently waiting for storytellers to draw its tales from the eddies and give voice to the ripples tracing its surface. Indeed, this quiet morning stall, though modest and often overlooked, offers a grand vantage point. It is here, amidst the clamor and subtleties, you find yourself joining the collective memory of a living city basking in its morning glow, held together by strands of narrative both known and undiscovered. And so the day unfolds with its myriad stories, each bustling sound, every soft splash of water tying you closer to the wholeness of where you stand on that delicate threshold between history and the waking present. As you find yourself gently ambling down a narrow and dimly lit back lane, you are surrounded by shadows that seem to undulate with the flickering light of the lanterns hung sporadically along the way. The scene is reminiscent of many medieval cities where roads and alleys such as this wove through life like veins pumping vitality through hidden corridors. The wooden panels lining this alley obscure some of the view, carved with patterns you might recognize or try to decode in the half-light. Their grain feels ancient, a testament to the hundreds of stories they must contain. It's easy to imagine secrets murmured to these panels, or messages left in haste, only to be lost to the annals of time. Echoes of the past preserved in wood, yet still ever so elusive, are a consistent theme of history, aren't they? Historians, after all, still debate what exactly these carvings meant, or indeed if they meant anything at all in many cases. The ground underfoot is slick. Rainwater has mixed here with a cocktail of less savory elements, invoking the distinctive earthy scent of a city in reconnaissance with itself. The cobblestones look as if they've been stitched together by an absent-minded artisan who sometimes placed a few leftover pieces just for the amusement of anyone who dared to observe. During the rainy months in London, for instance, waste would often overflow from the roadsides, creating conditions less than ideal for residents. This led to the establishment of sanitation laws in many burgeoning cities by the 13th century. You learn as you navigate these slick, treacherous paths for yourself. Yet enforcing this was another matter, especially after the sun dipped below the horizon. Darkness allowed mischief, indiscretion, and sometimes necessity to take the helm, guiding actions beneath lanterns' judgmental glow. In your exploration, you note how city infrastructure, That fine balance between chaos and order often reflected its core values. The layers beneath your feet tell a story of human intent, success, failure, and the tireless drive to improve. Wonderment arises from thinking how not a single soul alive today has walked this unlit alley in exactly your context at this exact moment in history, which is continuously writing itself as you proceed. One could argue that it is little wonder why in older times rumors of spirits and specters were so persistent. After all, an alley like this, caught in perpetual twilight and echoing quietly with the hush of drizzle, would easily inspire stories of phantoms from any ambitious bard. Such tales drew likenesses not just from the shadow play of bygone lanterns, but also from the all too human instinct to understand what lay beyond comprehension. Pausing for a moment, you imagine life contiguous here. The jangling noise of wooden wheels on the cobbles, voices crying out to visiting merchants with wares unknown to the current world. The laughter of children turned street games into memories that would echo long after the players forget. Even amidst superficial mess and chaos came a community pulse, the likes of which could pound warmly through anyone aware enough to feel it. The alleys and streets were as multifaceted as the lives they encompassed, each step between the slick cobbles, adding another layer to the bustling continuum of humanity. Just a loose thread in the vast tapestry of existence, one that we all continue to weave unthinkingly yet deliberately. As you take your next steps, one has to wonder what slice of ephemeral existence will be met just around the corner. Another detail waiting to be recorded in the story that never truly ends. And so the walk continues. You keep moving forward through this thread, alive within stories, long-told stories yet unheard. The elegant rustle of velvet echoes gently through the grand banquet hall as you find yourself immersed in an era where formal gatherings are more than just social events. They are grand performances in manners and attire. You walk softly across the polished floors, your slippers barely making a sound against the cold tiles. Around you, the air is heavy with the scent of roses, a delicate masking of less pleasant aromas that whispers of the hall's discreet secret. Hidden beneath layers of fabric and refinement are small porcelain funnels known as Bourdaloue, an intimate accessory for the ladies in their grand velvet dresses. These unassuming items are both a practical and quiet solution for managing the day's indulgences without leaving the elegance of the gathering. As the evening continues, candlelight flickers over a sea of elaborate hairstyles and sparkling jewelry. You marvel at the intricacies of each fashion choice, made to charm and impress. Among these gathered aristocrats, a tale surfaces, one that has traversed whispers and logs in the annals of royal lore. It is said that a queen known for her taste as much as her kindness once gifted a Bourdaloue to her most trusted maid. But not just any Bourdaloue, mind you. This one was trimmed in gold, a token of esteem wrapped in practicality. Historians still debate whether this was a symbol of affection or simply a testament to the Queen's attention to detail and her understanding of the intimacies of court life. In more creative interpretations, some suggest the maid saved the Queen from a social faux pas, leading to this peculiar yet telling reward. Yet as you navigate the space, amidst the chatter and clinks of glasses, you recognize that in such a setting, status is displayed as much in what is hidden as what is shown. This gold-trimmed vessel was more than just a luxury item. It represented a bond of trust and loyalty. Within these walls, each artifact and anecdote carries its own tale, woven into the tapestry of this grand hall's history. A notable historical fact emerges from your musings. The banquet hall like the one you stand in was not just a place for revelry. It was a stage where political alliances were forged and social hierarchies reinforced under the guise of leisure and camaraderie. The lavish gowns and whisper-light perfumes, like the Bourdaloue, were part of this elaborate dance spinning stories of power, dressed in the guise of elegance. Yet amidst the pageantry, something catches your eye. From behind one of the ornate pillars emerges a lady holding a small pouch. Curious, you lean closer to discover that within it lies a sachet of rose petals, a subtle yet potent accessory used to ensure only the fragrance of blooms mixed with perfumes reached the noses of guests. The sachets are an unspoken testimony to the ingenious yet simple ways used to maintain decorum and pleasantness throughout the evening's proceedings. As you retreat back into the crowd, the gentle flow of music and laughter carries you away. The Bourdaloue's sachets and whispered tales of regal gifts remain your companions. Through the haze of history, they meld seamlessly, proving that even in the practices that might seem most mundane, there lies a narrative of grace and human connection, a cozy reminder as you step further into the past. As you tiptoe your way quietly up the castle's ancient stone stairs, each step emits a gentle creak, like whispered secrets shared from times long past. The castle sleeps around you serene and full of mystery, wrapped in the soothing cloak of night. A flickering candle in your hand casts ghostly shadows that dance along the cold stone walls, and the air is thick with the rich aroma of history and tales untold. Whispers and soft sighs seem to linger in the air, tales of a spectral presence known as the White Lady, who graces these halls near the Garderobe. It's said that she appears silently, a luminous vision caught only at the periphery of sight. This, however, seems to be the heart of numerous debates among historians who argue over her origin. Some claim she was a figure of great tragedy, while others suggest she's merely a figment of local legend, birthed from the endless imagination of past residents. You pause for a moment, your mind engaged in a curious blend of sheer fascination and a slight thrilling fear. The candle quivers, and for an instant it almost seems as if the shadows are beckoning you onward. The Garderobe awaits, with its dark promise of antiquated mystery and the perpetual chill of the unknown, a chill that crawls up your spine now. Glancing at the flickering light in your grip, you ponder over how centuries ago this castle might have been bustling with unending activity. The grandeur of banquets held within these very walls, the challenging preparation for wars, all merging with echoes of laughter and cries, setting the foundation for legends to bloom. Just like the whispering stairs, each stone seems imbued with untold chronicles, awaiting an attentive ear. As you edge further into the hallway, the candle's light stretches just far enough to reveal ancient carvings in the stonework. These engravings you recall from an earlier tour were believed to date back to the 14th century. Historians are uncertain about whether these were meant as protective wards or simply decorative friezes, but their intricate designs suggest a deep-rooted cultural significance, one lost to the relentless march of time. It's the little surprises of the castle that endear themselves to your adventurous spirit, like the time you stumbled upon an old servant's corridor hidden behind a tapestry, or when you discovered that the moat now dry once served as a garden for rare medicinal herbs brought by monks during perilous journeys. Each corner turned and each creak underfoot teases with the potential of yet another hidden tale. Your path brings you ever closer to the fabled garderobe, the room heavily imbued with whispers of both the mysterious and the mundane. This ancient privy, a necessary feature of medieval design, is a testament to the ingenuity and daily life of a bygone era. Despite its humble purpose, the garderobe held an importance far beyond its walls, as historians have debated its usage not just for personal matters, but also as a storage space for precious clothing. The ammonia, it was believed, served to deter moths. Peering cautiously into the shadows, you ponder upon the nature of belief and history. Were the stories of the White Lady born from truth fabrications or a fascinating blend of both? Many still argue this, weaving endless theories rich in imagination and historical detail. You smile at the thought of future historians perusing these halls, just as you do now, piecing together shards of the past. In this hushed historical canvas, painted with curious strokes of legend and reality, you sense the weight of where you stand, not just in place, but in time. These walls have borne witness to events that shaped destinies, saw the rise and fall of lives now forgotten, save for the ghosts of their tales that haunt the corridors. A strong gust outside causes the candle's flame to dance wildly for a moment, its light battling against the darkness, just like the history you now navigate, part truth, part myth, and entirely captivating. As dawn begins to paint the horizon with gentle hues of promise and new beginnings, you prepare to leave the quiet of the castle's embrace. The stories you've unearthed from these sleepy stones stay with you, a reminder of the enduring nature of history and the relentless curiosity that drives us to know more. Much like your own candle, flickering valiantly against the infinite night. The winter air bites at your cheeks, the kind of cold that seeps through your clothes and insists on making itself known. Breathing it in feels like swallowing a mouthful of tiny icicles. You walk carefully over the slick path dusted with snow and patches of ice, calming yourself with the knowledge that you've taken precautions. You sprinkle coarse salt, a grainy shield against slipping a trick passed down from old folktales and proven to withstand many a harsh winter. The salt crunches lightly underfoot, reminding you of its promise of safety. Your destination is a small stone bench, unassuming but seemingly cut from the very fabric of the earth. Chilled and hard it waits under a canopy of snow-draped branches. A quick glance tells you it's as cold as the air, uninviting at first touch. But you come prepared. The warm embers of a home-stoked fire accompany you nestled in a metal pail. The fireplace ash is still hot to the touch, a comforting heat against the winter's relentless chill. With careful precision, you spread the ashes over the stone seat, watching steam curl upwards as the heat starts to permeate through the icy veneer. The once inhospitable bench now radiates warmth, if only briefly. As you sit, the warmth absorbs into you a welcome reprieve in an unforgiving landscape. You consider the ingenuity of this small act, derived from generations long past practical wisdom that whispers of survival and resourcefulness. This practice reminds you of medieval towns, where similar methods were employed to keep passageways walkable during the frost. While historians still debate whether it was pure tradition or born of necessity, it's a sign of times when survival and comfort went hand in hand. Seeing your breath linger in the air, you appreciate these echoes of human history that persist in everyday rituals. Yet, as the stone's warmth dissipates, you're reminded of the impermanence of these comforts and the ebb and flow of natural rhythms. The bench cools quickly, a fleeting moment of solace in the starkness of winter. Nevertheless, its brief warmth serves its purpose, a reminder of the delicate balance between enduring nature's elements and bending them ever so slightly to our will. The crisp air feels almost reverent around you as you ponder the nature of warmth in times when shivering winters were the backdrop to human stories. Imagine those ancient hearths, glowing centers of communal life, where stories were traded like currency, and each tale woven with threads of cold nights much like yours. As the warmth fades around you, a subtle chill begins its return, nudging you to consider the fire's dual nature as both friend and fleeting guardian against the cold backdrop. It's a dance, this relationship with warmth and frost, a tradition as old as time itself, whispering of hearths long extinguished and fires yet to be kindled. You sit and listen content with the brief embrace of heat against the starlit chill. Buzzing flies fill the air thickly around you as you wander through the narrow cobblestone streets of 15th century Paris. The city is alive with its bustling inhabitants, merchants peddling their goods, and craftsmen hard at work. You notice that many of the houses have bundles of mint and wormwood strung at their doorways, a curious sight that piques your interest until you catch a strong whiff of the sharp, herbaceous aroma. It's then you realize these bundles aren't just for decoration. They're an attempt to mask the rather pungent odors that cling to the city like an unwelcome fog. In this time, fresh air isn't often something you can take for granted. As you stroll, you can't help but hear the snippets of idle conversation mingling with the lively bartering interspersed every now and again by the distant toll of a church bell. The chatter occasionally turns to complaint, especially about the incessant buzzing of flies, a most annoying companion that seems determined to join you on your explorations. It reminds you that Paris, despite its grand cathedrals and bustling marketplaces, has a decidedly visceral side, You stop to watch as a city official, dressed in somber attire with a serious expression, solemnly sprinkles a fine white powder onto the ground. Lime. The regulations of the city are quite clear on this matter. Sprinkling lime is a twice daily ritual meant to curb the aromas and unseen dangers of waste that collect in the streets. Whether it actually helps is a matter of some debate among historians, but it is without question a staple of the city's public health strategy. The clattering of hooves on stone startles you slightly, and you turn to see a cart loaded high with various odds and ends making its way slowly down the street. A child dangles from the back, waving a stick in the air, his laughter infectious and bright against the gray tones of the scene. It's a reminder of the resilience within these winding streets, where life in all its forms stubbornly thrives. You find yourself pausing at the edge of a small square, gazing at the scene before you. A marketplace unfolds with a variety of colors and sounds. Vendors shout, attempting to entice you with promises of fresh produce, fine cloth, or a mysterious elixir that's guaranteed to cure what ails you. It's hard not to wonder about the truth behind some of these claims, but their voices are persistent and pitched with a well-practiced charm. Across the square, a stray cat weaves between booths, a patient hunter in search of scraps. It's not just the market goers who need to be resourceful, it seems. The cat's presence gives the impression of another vigilant resident in this city's daily drama. The sun dips lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the buildings and lending a softer hue to the crowded streets. Despite the city's noise, you find a surprising peace in the rhythm of its daily activities, the hum of life carrying on as it has for centuries. As you move on, leaving the bustling crowd behind your path, takes you down a quieter alley where the sounds of commerce start to fade. Here the city seems more introspective. The narrowness of the streets makes you feel as if you are wandering through a history book one step closer to understanding the layers of the past under your feet. You stop, drawn by the sight of a small chapel, its simple facade standing watch over this secluded corner. There's something soothing about its presence, a haven amidst the vibrant chaos. You take a deep breath, the scent of lime less pronounced here, and enjoy the moment of stillness, in contrast to the sensory overload just streets away. Continuing on your journey, you start to feel at ease despite the complex environment around you. The layers of history, the practicalities of everyday life in this medieval city, and the stories carried on the winds between stone walls all seem to invite you further into a world where time ticks just a little bit differently. You find yourself caught between the charm and the challenges of this world, just as the city itself is caught between tradition and the slow march of progress. It's a dance of survival and adaptation, where even the flies, thoroughly unwanted guests, play their persistent part. And as you wander through this tapestry of past lives, threading your way through streets that have seen countless travelers before you, the realization settles in that here, every stone and shadow persists with its own story, crafting the chapters of Paris in an unending book. And tonight, you've added your own moment to that story. An evening in a city where history buzzes just as insistently as the flies. In the dim glow of the lantern, you find yourself in a wood-paneled room that exudes an air of antiquity, mingled with the sharp yet pleasant smells of herbs. The walls, lined with shelves, hold jars of potions and concoctions, giving the space a sense of both mystery and familiarity. In this quiet chamber, a barber surgeon works diligently, his tools neatly arranged like an artist's palette. You feel a sense of serenity here, a place where history breathes softly through its wooden bones. The air is infused with the scents of vinegar, lavender, and rosemary. These are not just elements of a calming bouquet, but vital components in the battle against what was thought to be foul air. With a gentle hand, the barber surgeon scatters these aromatic mixtures, a ritual purification of the air believed to protect against unseen maladies. You see him pause, focusing intently as he explains the theory that disease arises from noxious odors that drift unseen and malevolent. You can't help but be drawn into the gravity of his words. He believes them fervently. And so would you if the very air around you seemed a potential threat. As he tends to his current task, you learn of his era's prevailing beliefs, the miasma theory. He tells you about this invisible danger, the bad air thought to seep into the lungs and carry sickness with it. In the quiet thrill of antiquity, you remind yourself of the fortunate turns modern science has taken. You probably won't survive. This may have been whispered to anxious patients in that time, fear mingled with hope in these sacred spaces. Yet, unbeknownst to him, this incorrect theory about disease had a silver lining, one that historians still ponder, whether the erroneous idea of miasma unknowingly ushered in a new appreciation for cleanliness and hygiene. It's a curious thought how mistaken beliefs could lead to beneficial practices that linger even today. As you wander deeper into this historical tapestry, you note the unusual detail. That act of purifying with scents brings a surprisingly familiar peace, a ritual many continue with their diffusers and candles in the present day. The gesture seems timeless, a comforting link across ages. Historians might debate this chain of influence, questioning how much of modern cleanliness stems from such ancient caution against foul air. But here, enveloped in the gentle whispers of rosemary and lavender, you find empathy for those who sought to protect themselves with whatever means they had. The barber surgeon, now more of a guide through time, tends to his duties with care. Each motion is deliberate as he sharpens blades and readies linens, every detail a dance of precision and tradition. The room holds a quiet reverence, a respect for the past that envelops you as you continue this journey. The cool touch of lavender on the breeze calls you back to the present, a sweet reminder that though centuries away, these practices still echo. As you settle comfortably into this memory, you begin to drift, just as the gentle hum of an open fan might lull you into peaceful dreams. As you find yourself in the bustling streets of medieval London, the air around you is thick with the unmistakable energy of a city alive. The cobblestone roads clatter beneath horse-drawn carts, and people bustle about, their voices merging into a vibrant hum that fills the atmosphere. You're standing near the square where the crowd is gathering in anticipation of the daily proclamations. The town crier, a man with a wooden staff and a bell that's a tad too large for his liking, steps briskly into the center, his voice cutting through the ambient noise like a blade. Hear ye, hear ye? He begins, his voice sonorous and commanding despite the faint grumbles of his noisy stomach. The townsfolk, you included, silence your chatter to listen. By order of His Majesty's Council, let it be known, no refuse is to be thrown from windows upon penalty of fines or public punishment. He pauses for effect, eyes scanning the crowd, before continuing with a hint of mischief. For those of you who fancy a game of luck, know, this violating this law will fetch you a fine of 2 shillings, much cheaper than a night at the tavern, albeit far less merry. There's a ripple of laughter, and you can't help but smile at the humor woven into the gravity of the announcement. In the distance, you spot a child tugging at his mother's sleeve, asking what happens if someone forgets, and tosses a chamber pot casually onto the street below. The mother, adjusting her grip on a wicker basket, leans down with a sigh to explain in hushed tones the workings of the pillory, a contraption that seems equal parts legend and reality to those too young to have witnessed its use. It's 1481, and the City of London is ever so slowly transitioning into more civilized ways, although the aroma of waste lingers as an unwelcome reminder of practices not yet left behind. Officials fine violators 2 shillings, a not insignificant amount, considering the average laborer's weekly wage. The rumblings among the crowd continue, interspersed with expressions of agreement and the occasional argument over the fairness of such measures. Just then, as if meticulously timed by the fates to provide a live demonstration, a sizable splash is heard nearby. Heads turn collectively, eyes searching for the culprit or the unlucky bystander who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Near the pillory, a bucket lays on its side, its odorous contents. Yet another lesson for those gathered about the importance of the crier's message. Some say this law came about because a particularly haughty noble had once been the victim of such an airborne affront, though historians still debate whether the story holds water. What remains certain is the city's slow march towards more sanitary and less publicly humiliating methods of waste management. As the town crier wraps up his announcement with a final, "God save the King," you glance around, seeing nods of assent, grins of amusement, and the occasional shrug of indifference. The note of cheerful sarcasm in the air might just give way to genuine change, or at least provide enough entertainment to keep the gossip mills turning well into the evening. The sun begins its descent, casting a golden hue over the chimneys and tiled roofs. You turn to leave the square, mindful as ever, to tread carefully until London fully embraces its sanitation aspirations. With the day's proclamation sitting warmly in your mind, you weave through the throng, taking in the details of this lively place where history unfolds in real time. And as the light fades to a softer glow, the echo of the crier's bell follows you, a lingering reminder of the strange balance between the old ways and new demands of civic duty. The story continues, and with it the promise of a brighter, somewhat cleaner tomorrow. The night envelops you like a heavy blanket as you step into the stillness of the pre-dawn hours. The cool air nips at your cheeks, invigorating yet calming in its embrace. You find yourself standing in the middle of a pasture, the world around you shrouded in shadows, with only the faint glimmer of starlight above. The ground beneath your boots is firm, but not unforgiving, yielding slightly as you step purposefully toward the barn where your tools await. In the dim light, the farmer's tasks seem almost ethereal. You watch as he picks up a heavy, well-worn pitchfork and starts his night's work with a steady rhythm that speaks of years spent perfecting this humble craft. Each motion is deliberate, the fork piercing the thick, gooey sludge with an almost musical slurp before he heaves it into the waiting cart. The muck seems to have a life of its own, spreading out with a soft, oddly satisfying splat that echoes gently in the silence. His leather gloves crackle and slap against the wooden handle of the pitchfork with each powerful thrust. It's a dance you think somewhat mesmerized by the methodical repetition. What surprises you, though, is how this seemingly laborious job pays surprisingly well, a detail that's a secret only to those who dare to partake. The church bell's somber tone drifts across the countryside, softly announcing the arrival of the third hour. It's a time when others are comfortably nestled in their beds, dreaming dreams that tend to evaporate with the first hint of dawn. But here in the gratifying simplicity of this work, you find a calm that rivals even the deepest slumber. Historians still debate whether this kind of labor, so consistent throughout centuries, has changed much since ancient times. The tools might have been cruder, yet the task of tending to animals and keeping the farm pristine has remained a cornerstone of rural life. You ponder this as two owls, silent as phantoms, glide overhead, hunting in the shadows. Shadows that occasionally conceal more than just small night creatures. They hide a world many choose not to see, much like this job. Few people would volunteer to fork muck in the dead of night. Yet who could have imagined the peace it brings in its simplicity? Your mind wanders to a time long past when this same chore might have been performed by candlelight in medieval Europe. Farms were the backbone of society, supporting the grand castles and manors with the fruits of their labor. Even now, as the distant echoes of history whisper through this intimate chore, you sense a connection to those ancestors. In the silence, you're reminded of an unusual detail, a tale your grandmother used to tell about farmers using bat guano as fertilizer because of its high nitrogen content, a practice that seemed bizarre, yet brilliantly resourceful. Could this farmer have ancient wisdom like that tucked up his sleeve? As you watch him work, you catch a sense of satisfaction, an understanding of why anyone would trade comfortable sleep for a night of labor. The pay, of course, was an enticing aspect. Tales of how intricate ecosystems on farms required specific knowledge and care suggest that wisdom often rewards those who seek it. As the task approaches completion for the night, you look up again. A thin strip of gray starts to unfurl across the horizon, signaling the approaching dawn. You feel the presence of time pulling gently at the edges of this tranquil earth. The farmer places his tools aside the cart, now full and ready for the morning duties. You understand now that the quiet triumph of such a night's work is its own reward. As you step away, the world around you starts to brighten, preparing for the day to awaken. The farmer's night, your night, will be remembered in the whispers of dawn, in the silent stirring of life that carries on tirelessly, rhythmically, much like the work itself. Tomorrow night, you think, might bring another church bell, marking another hour of calm labor. But for now, as the world awakens, you're content to let the stillness of the night fade softly into the gentle bustle of day. In this tranquil cocoon enveloped by the rich tapestry of night, you understand the quiet power of tradition, a comforting constant in an ever-changing world. As the first rays of light caress the rolling fields, you find yourself walking along a narrow dirt path. It's morning in medieval England, and the world is just beginning to stir. The dew glistens like tiny jewels on blades of grass, and the cool air carries the sense of soil and new beginnings. Around you, a small procession of villagers chatters as they push wooden carts filled with something rather unexpected waste. Yes, those heaps of waste, which some might consider unsavory, are destined for the barley fields ahead. Each step you take is accompanied by the soft crunch of earth beneath your feet. As the sun climbs higher, you begin to appreciate the strangely comforting rhythm of this place. The villagers move with purpose, intent on their task. They know, much like a secret passed through generations, that using this waste isn't just an oddity of their time, it's an overlooked miracle of agriculture. You might not have guessed it, but the magic of human fertilizer increases yields by nearly 20%. The carts arrive at the fields and the serious work begins. You watch as the waste is expertly spread. Meanwhile, in a nearby corner, a group of tanners is hard at work with the hides. Their craft is less about what is seen and more about what is heard, the soft rustle of leather mingling with the hiss of lime pits. This alchemy of transformation is essential, though historians still debate whether the tanners' methods were purely practical, or if there was something more, perhaps even magical, to their craft. You can't help but marvel at the intricacy of the world you find yourself a part of. The villagers take no breaks this morning. Instead, they've already turned their gaze to phase 2, the nourishing of these field crops. Here, among these early English farms, life is legitimately sown and grown from what others discard without a second thought. Yet even amid this earthy wonder, the air of medieval uncertainty accompanies you. The idea's true merit, as they might have in the farm, yields remain a topic of long debate. Debate about the exact science that enabled these physiological leaps at a time when much of the world's future was left to ancient instincts. Only an echo in the quiet rustle of the leaves and the chatter of morning creatures reminds you that this story weaves through time. Strolling back from the fields, the freshness in your lungs is as invigorating as the tales unfolding around you. Life here seems so vibrant, so real, and yet so different from your own time. Could you really survive in such a rough-hewn world where every day brings its fresh challenges without the convenience of modern comforts? Probably a long shot. And yet there's something undeniably grounding soothing even about the simplicity of it all. As you step away from the fields, you're left to ponder the complexities of simple existence all around. The rustic interplay between nature and nurture, with people's lives woven tightly into the landscape, rings harmoniously in your mind. Here, each action, no matter how small or humble, shapes the destiny of countless lives and the very soil beneath your feet. And with this pocket-sized slice of history, you can carry a tiny piece of medieval life back with you when the day ends. The sun continues its climb, warming your face as you return along the path. The morning's work finished, the villagers disperse, some toward the market, others to begin daily chores with a quiet air of accomplishment. All too soon your visit is over, but not without a memory. A texture of tough-worn iron and rich earth remains a tangible mark that life indeed grows best where roots are buried deep. Whether one argues myth or fact, there's no denying that each rotation of sun to soil is a story worth hearing, a story we continue to live today. Just as night settles in with a starry dome above you, find yourself ready to rest from the journey, a listener to a past rich with sounds, scents, and steps, all twined into the fabric of history. And as this narrative winds down into dreamtime, a gentle breeze whispers through the leaves, and the faintly familiar lull of distant livestock dovetails with the soft creaks of ancient wood settling into the night. This medieval tale isn't done. It simply softly rests, as do you, until a new day beckons the dawn. By the flickering light of a modest candle, you watch the monk dip his feather quill into a pot of thick, dark ink. The quill glides over parchment as he ponders an unusual question: can fish survive in moats, fed by the latrines of medieval castles? The flickering shadows dance over the stacks of parchment and the monk's bald pate. His brow furrows as he writes, lost in thought, seemingly oblivious to the cool draft whispering through the stone walls. In this quiet scriptorium, the monk pens his musings on the peculiar symbiotic relationships between man and nature, deeply intrigued by tales of the cleaning carp, those diligent fish believed to thrive in the murky waters of castle moats. These carp, as chroniclers of the time noted, were lauded for their ability to purify the fetid waters surrounding fortresses. It seemed they lived to filter and feast on the refuse, creating a cleaner moat environment. Yet, like many legends of old, this claim remained as murky as the water it described. The monk's quill hesitates above the page. He recalls the arguments of wary fishmongers and skeptical scholars who argued that these waters could poison the very fish meant to cleanse them. They pointed to stories of gasping fish bellies bloated and floating pale under the castle's shadow, victims of their supposedly purifying task. It was a debate that left many historians scratching their heads. Historians to this day still debate whether these carp truly served as moat custodians, or if they met an untimely end due to the polluted waters. The truth, slippery as an eel, seems lost in the tides of time. Did castle builders unknowingly create a sustainable aquatic habitat? Or was it all just wishful thinking? The monk smiles softly, an expression tinged with both warmth and irony. He knows the tales vary just as the seasons do, yet he relishes the blend of fact and myth that brings history to life. It is a vivid tapestry, woven with the colored threads of belief reality and a touch of medieval imagination. The pondering continues well into the night, the scratch of quill against parchment, the only sound in a world reduced to candle-lit reflection. Such musing offers comfort, does it not? In an era where knowledge was recorded at the pace of a steady hand, and where each parchment held the weight of wisdom or folly, those who dared to imagine were true keepers of wonder. These monks preserved stories while adding their own small footprints along the scrolls. Who could say what the truth was when even water itself defies clarity in murky depths? As you listen, you might imagine the monk nodding off the quill slipping from his fingers, only to stir him back to wakefulness. He shakes his head gently, gathering his thoughts, thinking of how one might arrive at certainty in a world filled with such complexities. You realize that even now the ghostly apparitions of debate drift endlessly. Some tales might be forgotten, yet this one catches in the fabric of time like a stray thread. In this gentle telling lies the beauty of forgotten histories, where truths may never be fully resolved, and mysteries retain their allure, undying and unyielding to the passage of years. Such stories create coziness in their ambiguity, a soft place to rest your thoughts as you drift into a night of calm dreams, the monk's quill still there to guide you through the fog of uncertainty, offering peace in the unknowing. The sound of the siege ladders clattering against the stone walls rings in your ears, echoing through the stillness of night. In the dim light, you can almost feel the tension in the air as the city's defenders, in a desperate bid to hold their ground, unleash a barrage of unconventional methods to repel the advancing attackers. Up on the battlements, they labor tirelessly, pouring hot ash down upon the invaders below. It's a tactic both time-tested and surprisingly effective. You can smell the acrid scent of the ash mixed with sweat and fear, an almost tangible presence in the chill night air. But that's not all. The defenders deploy another weapon in their arsenal, one born out of necessity and resourcefulness, boiling chamber pot contents. A foul method to be sure, and one that turns your stomach at the thought, but it is undeniably effective. The attackers falter their cries of pain and shock, rising in a terrible chorus that merges with the clamor of the clattering ladders. The stone walls themselves remain unmoved, silent witnesses to the human drama unfolding at their feet. It's strange to think that such acts of medieval warfare, crude yet innovative, were commonplace. The practice of pouring boiling substances, including raw sewage, was a common defense during sieges. Historians still debate whether this was more a physical deterrent or a psychological tactic, a way to break the will of attackers through humiliation as much as through pain. The echoes of frustration, anger, and desperation reverberate through the cold night air. You can't help but muse over these stories of survival and ingenuity, wondering how it must have felt to be either party in this grim dance, a defender wielding such unsavory substances, or an attacker driven to such desperation as to scale these walls. Just like the time you read about the strategic use of boiling oil in ancient times, a mixture that often included whatever was at hand, whether oil or something far less palatable, innovation under duress, is a hallmark of human history. The history written upon these stone walls is silent, stoic, under the fearsome clamor that surrounds it, yet so full of stories and mysteries. You ponder the stories that these walls could tell, if only they had a voice of sieges, long past the bravery and fear of its defenders, the relentless assaults of its attackers. These stones, worn smooth by the passage of time, remain an enduring testament to resilience and human ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds. Your mind drifts, envisioning the scene from above, a dramatic tableau bathed in the flickering torchlight. You imagine the defenders shrouded in shadow, moving with precision honed by necessity. Each maneuver is crucial, every action a potential pivot point between survival and defeat. Below, the attackers push forward their siege ladders, a rickety promise of success, and a swift ascent over the impregnable defenses. Yet, despite their seeming fragility, the stone walls stand as they always have, indifferent to the chaos and clamor, the cries of battle, and the abrasive cloud of ash that settles on everything. The passing of time ensures that these events fade into history, etched onto the palimpsest of human memory, leaving behind only the silent stoic stones. As the night deepens, there is a certain peace in the routine of these historic defenses. In some ways, it is calm, rhythmic, even as it remains deadly serious. The defenders continue their unyielding watch, assured that the stone walls will keep the worst of the chaos at bay and buoyed by their resourceful, if unpleasant, tactics. And as you close your eyes to the tableau of a siege, long past, you imagine the soft whispers of the night air, the stone walls holding more than just their physical might. They are bastions of stories and echoes, and in them lies a peculiar kind of comfort. Each sound and story becomes a note in an ancient lullaby sung by the stones themselves, lulling you into a gentle sleep. It's here, wrapped in the warmth of history and the cool night air, that you find rest. The sunlight dances faintly through the wooden slats of the shuttered windows, casting stripes of golden light across the stone floors of the castle's indoor chamber. As you wander through the winding corridors, your curiosity leads you to a peculiar, almost hidden nook. It's a place not for the faint of heart, or the overly refined and old twin-seat privy that tells more stories than most places within these ancient walls. Imagine this two wooden seats side by side, separated by a low partition with small holes drilled through. These aren't the kind of holes you might find in a tool shed, but intentional gaps meant to allow whispered conversations. Perhaps the design is more thoughtful than you first realized. It's not just a place for bodily relief, but a hub for clandestine chats and secret exchanges. Picture members of the household, or perhaps guests, after a rich meal full of wine sitting here, murmuring stories and trading tidbits of gossip that fuel the very life force of noble courts. The air here holds certain antiquity, seasoned with the tales shared over centuries. One could almost say that it harbors a collection of innermost thoughts transformed into whispered words. Historians still debate whether these privy talks ever influenced the decisions that shaped the land, Perhaps an important alliance was born in one hushed conversation, facilitating a marriage that united rival houses. No one can be truly sure. These quiet histories aren't penned in formal annals after all. As you sit and let your imagination wander, you notice an interesting detail: the quality of the cloth available for use. The well-to-do owners of this manor didn't settle for just any kind of wiping fabric. No, they furnished their privies with embroidered cloths, proof of their status and affluence. Bright threads weave through them, forming intricate designs that mark the subtle line between necessity and luxury. Rich families in medieval Europe liked to showcase their wealth in surprising ways, even in the most private of spaces. A simple touch such as this cloth elevates an otherwise mundane experience, delineating class lines just as effectively as a high castle wall or perhaps an elegant gown. You see, the small details of everyday life tell you much more than grand displays ever could. And if you inhale deeply, despite the undeniable freshness that each dawn brings, there's a noticeable scent lingering in the air: lavender, soothing yet inexplicably mixed with age. Back then, perfuming such spaces was a common practice, a means to mask less pleasant aromas and also a nod to the refined tastes of the castle's occupants. The lavender drifts in light measured breaths, softening the stale undertones you might otherwise notice in a less esteemed abode. This deliberate choice of scent is notable not just for its sensory relief, but also as an indication of the medicinal beliefs of the time. Lavender was prized for its supposed healing properties, thought to soothe headaches and ward off pestilence, a logic comfortably embraced in an era where science was still taking its first tentative steps. As your eyes drift across the room, you ponder the stories sparked here, deftly woven into the greater tapestry of history. What started as idle whispers through partition holes might have spiraled into complex tales that influenced the course of family dynasties. Just as hay strewn on the castle floor muffles footsteps, lending a quietude to the steps of those carrying secrets. Through these simple conversations, perhaps happiness was shared, grievances aired, or alliances conceived. Who knows, a suggestion made here could have changed the fate of a household, or perhaps even that of a kingdom. They were making history of their own kind, one story at a time, under the modest stretch of wooden rooftops. The understanding of this long-forgotten chamber gives you an insight into a time when life was simultaneously simple and intricate, tactile, and bound by invisible rules. The twin-seat privy, with its humbleness and utility, represents a place where the divide between social ranks faded slightly against the shared necessities of the human condition. And as these thoughts resonate, they sew another thread of connection between your world and theirs, a commonality that time never truly erases. As you rise to leave, the trill of distant birdsong, muffled by the thick stone walls, beckons you back into the present. Your head buzzes with the tales of a life lived surprisingly similar to your own, full of whispers, scents, and small tokens that echo across time. Your eyelids grow heavy. Perhaps this lingering lavender is ideal for more than just its disguising scent, as it soothes your mind into a restful calm. With one last glance at the wooden seats, you step away. leaving behind a small enclave of history that will continue to cradling secrets long after you are gone. As the monk moves quietly through the shadows, cast by the flickering torches, you can almost feel the chill of the stone floor beneath your own feet. The Abbey is silent, a sanctuary of ancient wisdom and tranquility, with every step echoing the histories of those who once walked these halls. There is a gentle reverence to his movements as he approaches a curious wooden lever, its polished surface gleaming softly in the dim light. He grips the lever firmly, and with a practiced gesture he pulls it down. There's a moment where the world seems to hold its breath, then, like a whispered promise finally unveiled, you hear the sudden rush of stream water coursing beneath the floor. It's a soothing sound, a gentle whoosh that carries away waste silently and efficiently out of sight and mind. The monks of Cistercian abbeys like Rivaux were innovators far beyond their time, masterminds of medieval engineering who crafted these self-cleaning toilet channels. This manner of waste management was not only practical, but also an impressive feat of ecological harmony, redirecting a stream's flow to maintain cleanliness and hygiene within the abbey walls. Historians still debate whether this particular advancement was inspired by a more ancient practice or was simply the product of inventive monastic minds. Nonetheless, the ingenuity stands undeniable. Just like the air cold and pure, tracing invisible patterns through the cloisters here was a system that worked seamlessly, respecting the natural world while serving its purpose. There's a peculiar beauty in this union of nature and man-made creation, a tranquility that makes you consider the quiet elegance of simplicity. Such innovations were not just born from necessity. They reflected a world where contemplation and practical wisdom could reside hand in hand, supporting lives dedicated to study and spiritual contemplation. As you stroll through this ancient marvel, consider the surprising cleanliness and pre-modern eco-awareness that lived here. It reframes your view, showing that long before modern conveniences, these silent corridors were precision-engineered pathways of subtle innovation. The monk moves on, leaving the lever, as it was ready for its next use, an eternal part of the abbey's rhythm. Shadows dance along the stone, whispering secrets of water and wood, of ingenuity honed over generations. You find comfort in imagining a simpler, slower life, where each day flows like the cleansing streams beneath your feet, silent, persistent, and pure. In this sacred space, you sense the presence of countless others who have felt this same peace, and you wonder at the gentle continuity that binds your quiet night walk to their many years of quiet reflection. The gentle rain taps against the thatched roof above a soothing melody that diffuses throughout the dimly lit room. Each drop seems to carry a whisper from the night cloaking you in its cool embrace. As you listen, a subtle change takes place around you. Any lingering odors from day-long activities fade into the night's freshness. The hearth's ember light flickers softly, casting trembling shadows that dance like ancient spirits on the walls. Your breath falls into the rhythmic lullaby of the rain, slowing almost involuntarily, matching the tranquil tempo of the world outside. There's a continuity to the moment, a connection running back through countless rain-soaked evenings stretching across history. It's said that during certain nights, the rain bore divine omens with its fall, a notion embraced by some, pondered upon by others. Historians still debate whether these beliefs were born from superstition, cultural symbolism, or simply the comforting need to find messages in the chaos of storms. Nevertheless, tonight none of that truly matters as you sink deeper into your thoughts. Your eyes grow heavy, tracing the dim shapes in the flickering light. It's a reminder of the past when fire was a guardian of the night, keeping at bay the unseen mysteries that lurked just beyond its glow. You wonder how many others have rested as you do now, under a thatched ceiling, cherishing the sound of the rain as a divine blessing. Whether it was the Celts watching the rain clouds roam free across their verdant isles, or the ancient Romans listening to the heavens' tears while reclining in their villas, each one connected by the same mesmerizing rhythm. In those times, rain was a scarce yet vital friend, a gentle benefactor that promised the nourishment of the earth. The bounty that followed was awaited patiently, just like how you now await sleep's embrace. And then unexpectedly, you recall another interesting tidbit that lodges itself into your mind. The ancient Greeks believed their gods lived atop Mount Olympus, controlling the weather with whimsical ease. Was it Zeus deciding to bless you with this calming symphony tonight? Or were he and the other deities simply granting another benediction to whomever listens with an open heart? Upstairs, a creaky floorboard answers for you, its groan joining the melody of the rain. An interplay of the home around you, breathing settling just as like you are. Softly your mind meanders towards these nocturnal myths. Were these tales seeded from a need to explain the inexplicable, or perhaps a clever way to ensure early inhabitants stayed under shelter during tumultuous weather? The answer flits away like a wisp of smoke from the dying flame, elusive and fading. Within this intimate cocoon of warmth and sound, the world outside seems to oscillate between real and mythical. The rain's purpose tonight, whether mundane or celestial, is curiously intertwined with the realm of dreams. As your body eases further into relaxation, the boundaries of your thoughts dissolve, mingling with the gentle orchestration above a song, as ancient as storytellers themselves. The ember is now more glow than flame, its lifetime measured in breaths and delicate crackles. Its light reduced to a faint shimmer, frays at the questioning edges of your mind. Some claimed that interpreting raindrops required a sensitivity to the spirits of nature, a practice perhaps brushed aside by modernity, but alive at the fringes of folklore. Yet here, enveloped in serenity, the reason for rain takes on lesser importance as you inch towards dream's precipice. Your thoughts grow soft, curling like tendrils of smoke, reaching towards the heavens, fading into nothing. Whether each drop falling from the sky carries words from some divine source, or whispers from times long past, you understand that its true gift, its pure essence, lies in this moment, the ability to listen and to know that with rain's presence you can truly rest now.